at 6:30 Eastern. Okay, we're live. We did it. We made it on both platforms. I'm super excited because I'm late, but it happened. So I'm trying to minimize my social media addiction. So I took the IG off of my phone, and so now I'm trying to go live from my computer and then on Mighty on the other one. I don't know. I don't know what will happen, but let me know if you can't hear me. Anyway, lots of things happening here. Mostly just trying to take care of myself, which is kind of has been the theme of my last two lives. Like 2 weeks ago, I did one on rest because I'm feeling like I need more rest. Apparently my hair didn't get the memo today. It's not resting. And the other one last week was about where are you putting your energy. And both of them have a whole lot to do with being a singer. Like these things that are human lessons are also singing lessons. The things that are singing lessons are also usually human lessons because we are the only one that has a human instrument, you know? So it's very important to take care of our bodies, and when it tells you something, to listen. And ideally, you start to get the memo, and so you start doing that thing earlier than when your body is giving you that memo. So I think there's just a lot happening, and oh, maybe I haven't gone live yet. Who knows? Maybe I haven't joined Instagram yet. We'll see. Okay, there we go. I don't know what's happening. If you can, who knows? I've never done this from my computer before. Let me know. It's definitely weird. So if you can see me, give me a message down below because my Instagram is being very slow. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I'm here live. I should be talking about singing stuff. Sometimes it's harder than others, honestly, because my human stuff takes precedence for what I want to talk about singing wise. But as I was just saying, it's all the same. So anyway, thank you for dealing with me as I figure out new technology situations. Thank you very much. Hi, Sam. Thanks for being here. So yeah, hopefully I'm on Instagram too. I don't know. Anyway, what I want to talk about today in regards to singing is the fact that it's such a human instrument that unfortunately we don't have buttons to push when we're talking about certain notes, right? So I can say, hey, sing an A. And if you don't have perfect pitch, you're just going to be doing your best to understand where that A is for you based on your experience. So that's the hardest part. Honestly, I think that's the hardest part of being a singer is that there's no buttons, right? On piano, we have a button. If I push this button, it's an A every time. And if I hit this note on a fret on a guitar, it's an A every time. But in our singing voice, if we don't hear where we're supposed to be, like if we don't hear the music underneath the foundation of it, we're just gonna be guessing to the best of our ability. And like I've gotten pretty close. Like I don't have perfect pitch. I could not sing an A if you asked me to. But I know my voice well enough, and this is my goal for all of you. I know my voice well enough that I could probably get pretty close. Like I'm usually within a third of the note that I'm trying to sing. So let's see if I can do this. So like I'm gonna try and sing an A above middle C. So like it was a half step up, pretty dang close, because I know how that feels. I've noticed when I'm singing A how that feels in my body, where that feels in my range when I'm singing A. Like, and of course, it's helpful to read sheet music, but it's not necessary. But it's really good to be able to pick out your melodies along with your singing if you are a singer. And if you have not played piano, you don't even need much more than just knowing what notes are what. right? So learning how to play the piano is not a necessity, but at least learn what keys are what note. And so then you can pick out, okay, this is a C, this is middle C, because then you get to have a lot more landmarks about where your range sits within the range of a piano. So like, for example, most singers who have, been influenced by estrogen start their usual, like the low part of their range at around an F below middle C. And that's really helpful to know, because then you can figure, okay, where's middle C? Right here. I can go down to the F below that. And if you just know what F looks like, it's the one that is left of the 3 black keys, right? So at least you know how to play that on the piano, and you can help yourself match those pitches. And in a lot of cases, this can be really helpful for you also getting your bearings on where these notes feel like they are. So a lot of times with people, I have them do this ladder thing, right? If you've worked with me, you know about the ladder. Sing this note. Where does that feel like the note is? And you give me this weird face. It's like, I don't know, here. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Pick one of those, because I can't tell you what it feels like. Only you can tell what it feels like. So keep using those as your makeshift buttons, right? Your makeshift piano keys, until you have such a solid grasp on where your range is in relation to other notes for other instruments. A piano is the best because it's so visual. Highly recommend just using this ladder system, because it's the closest thing we can get to replicating a note over and over again. And yes, I can still hear that note that I was just singing in my head. But if I didn't, I would be able to say, okay, my hand was here. I'm going to try and sing this note was here. And I get pretty dang close. Much closer than if I didn't give myself any landmark in space. And I was just like, I'm just guessing at what I just heard if I didn't have that oral memory. Aural, A-U-R-A-L. So just a thing to think about. It might be really helpful to download a keyboard app on your phone and sing along as you play these certain notes. So you can start to play with the low end of your range and see where that sits for you. So like that F below middle C might not be the lowest part of your range. You might have a nice low voice, and you may be able to go down even further, and you can da, 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 keep going until you figure out where that end of your range is. And now you have 2 frames of reference. You have what it looks like on the piano, what note that is for other musicians. If you had to tell other musicians, like if you went to a vocal coach and you could easily tell them like, hey, guess what? My lowest note is E below middle C. And you are doing your ladder, so you can tell where that note feels like it is for you, and you can replicate it to the best of your ability. So I am a big fan of just getting back to basics as much as possible and knowing your voice inside and out, mapping it out. Some people call this voice mapping, like knowing where your lowest low is and what it feels like for you. Even if you didn't have a piano, feel into where that lowest low is for you. It's so helpful to know. And you'll start to build up that knowledge of, like I was just doing. You can tell, like, if you sing a note in a song, if it's going down to there, oh, that feels like it's not quite my lowest note, which I know is an F. Maybe it feels like a G or an A. F sharp, pretty dang close, right? So you can start to get a handle on visualizing your own voice. And if you're a kinesthetic learner, this is even more helpful, because then you have not just a visual on the ladder in front of you, you have a place to put your actual hand and another part of your body that you're using to sing with, because these muscles in here are so tiny. They're so tiny. It's hard to replicate the exact position that they were in every single time because we can't see them, right? And so many of us, especially if you're a kinesthetic learner, your brain and your eyes are such a helpful tool for you for learning. Learning something that's even inside your own body, right? So like when you're in gym in middle school, you start to learn about all the muscle groups, right? And biceps and the specific muscles or the specific exercise that work certain muscles. So you start to see, because you colored in a thing or something that's like, oh, the biceps are here. I can point to my own biceps on my body. These muscles in here are so freaking tiny. Like, even if you learn the anatomy, which I could show you diagrams of the larynx and stuff, it's so hard to visualize those because we don't have as much practice, right? Unless you're a voice teacher and you know the anatomy of the voice so well, like it's really hard to pinpoint what muscles are doing what and what's happening inside here. And even if you did, like it's still so hard to find the exact position to make that exact note in the same way that you did 5 minutes ago, because we can't see what's happening in here. We can't see, like if somebody told me like bend your elbow and squeeze your bicep 45 degrees, I'd be like, okay, I can see that. But if I had to feel that, I'd just be guessing. Yeah. But it's it's really weird to be trying to replicate similar things in similar positions with these teeny little vocal folds, right? They're like this tiny. They're even smaller than this, than your length of your finger. I would say, I don't know, half of this, maybe even less. So the fact that we can sing our whole range on this much space, it's going to be really impossible for us if we don't know what's happening to pinpoint that exact note again. So this is why I use visuals, like having a piano, learning the basic notes, what's what, learn all the sharps and flats too, because those are helpful, and using this ladder. Somebody asked me how to, I have had a couple of these actually, to how to keep from the key falling. How to make sure that you are still singing in the same key, or that you can get up to the same notes. A lot of this happens when you're singing a cappella. It's really hard to hold on to that key just on your own if you don't have the ear training behind it. And so having some kind of music in the background, like a karaoke version on really low or something, can be super helpful to give you the foundation that your ear needs to show you, okay, I'm in relation to this. I know these notes sound good, but these notes do not, because you're a music listener, you've been listening to music your whole life. I think it's really also extremely helpful to, outside of not forcing yourself to sing a cappella, it's really helpful to sing along with this visual kinesthetic scale, especially if you're a person that worries about getting notes wrong all the time, worries about falling out of key, worries about am I getting up high enough? Because when you start doing this, when you start knowing your own range so well, then that question is not a problem anymore, right? You're like, oh, I know I'm going back to there. Even if I have to go down, da da da, I can hear it, I can see it in my head. I know that's like eye level for me, and there's less questioning. I may not get it perfect every time. This is not a perfect system, but at least it gives me like 2 points to hold on to, visual and kinesthetic point. And I can probably guess where it is on the piano, and then you have this to play with. I guessed an E and it's a D sharp, which is pretty close. I'm usually half step off. So yeah, all of these things are really helpful to just get into your own body with, and also have a landmark outside of your body to connect to the feeling that is inside of your body. Does this make sense? This is a great question, Cheryl. Where do you breathe out of, or how to breathe while singing? Well, when you are singing, when you are making noise, you are sending air through your vocal folds. Your vocal folds are just closed more so than when you're just exhaling. So if you think about it like this, it's actually this way, but I like to think of it as like this. So when you're inhaling, your vocal folds are relaxed and you're open. You're letting that tube that goes down to your lungs fully open. And then when you're exhaling, it's also here. But when you're about to make noise, as soon as you have that impulse, they close, and you can kind of feel that kind of feeling, and you can notice what that feels like it is for you. Maybe some of these muscles start to feel like they're engaging. And then you start to make noise, and the air is still coming out, but in a much more compressed way. It's much more, it's slower. Not necessarily slower. That's not quite right. So the air is just coming through more closed vocal folds. And so you don't necessarily have to worry about breathing out when you are singing because it's gonna come out, which is why when we sing a nice long note end phrase, ah, I'm out of breath and I have to rebreathe again. My favorite way to talk about breathing when we're singing, and this is also helpful for this visualization conversation, is to think about sending the air down as far as I can in my body. Because what that does is it helps you relax your abdominals from the lower part. So a lot of times when we breathe, normally we're breathing very shallow in our lungs. So it's the kind of breath that moves your chest and it tightens your shoulder a little bit. Like if I tell a person on the street to take a really deep breath, they go, right, and you can see that they're tight. But if we're talking about breathing for singing on the inhale, I like to visualize it, sending it all the way down into your toes. And that way, that kind of naturally reminds your low abs and your obliques to relax a little. And all of a sudden, you're filling up your lungs from the bottom up instead of from the top down. You don't have to fill them 100%. You don't have to feel 100% full of air. You just have to have enough so that you feel like you're still within your natural, normal, casual breathing kind of range here. So I really like the visual of filling up a bucket from the bottom up, sending the breath into your toes, really just relaxing your chest and your shoulders. That will help also. But then the most important thing for most of us is allowing our abs to release, which we don't do that very often because we're also worried about having too big of bellies. So the best advice I can give you is allow that belly to expand. It doesn't have to be huge, just a little bit more than we usually do, because so many of us walk around, especially if you were raised as a woman, you have probably been socialized to suck it in, right? So we breathe with tight abs. They don't move a lot. They're tight when we inhale and tight when we exhale. And I wonder why we struggle to go somewhere when we're singing, right? Because when you're singing, you have to have the power from underneath. You have to have your abs relaxed and ready to go, because that's where the power comes from. Have you ever heard the phrase sing from your diaphragm? They really mean sing from your abs. So we're talking about the low abs, the oblique muscles, the ones on the outside, ones that look like this. So we are just making sure to really relax them so that when they are needed, when you're singing, they have somewhere to engage to. And I like to think of this as a relaxation on the inhale and the relaxation on the exhale. Relaxation on the inhale is your lower abs relaxing, your chest relaxing, your shoulders relaxing to create space. And then the exhale is a relaxation of your air coming out. So you're just releasing that air. So release, release. And just that kind of mindset shift and body shift will probably help you when you go to sing. Yeah, hopefully that helps. This is what I do all day long. I make visuals and I make metaphors for singing and how things feel in the body. And I have all kinds of weird ones. If you watched any of my lives before, you've probably seen all my weird metaphors. And so I think it's just really important for us to stop focusing on only how it sounds. That's like the number one best advice I've ever heard from any teacher, is like, stop focusing on the sound, focus on the feeling. Because when you get to the feeling that you're looking for, that is ease, that is freedom, that is trust in yourself, that is not pushing from here all the time. These little vocal muscles need to rest, and get the whole rest of the body involved to take some of that pressure away. So the best thing I can tell you is go towards the easiest feeling. We're trying to, of course, get more power, more volume, a lot of us. But can we do that? Play a game with yourself. How do I sing this with as much power as I know is possible, but from the easiest possible physical space? So a lot of us, when we go for that big note, we'll go, ha, right? And we squeeze, squeeze, squeeze in here. And that's just a default pattern of like, I'm afraid I'm not going to get it, so I'm going to overdo. And I talk about this all the time. So you can go watch my other lives about fight or flight and freeze people. So the idea is to derail that notion and say, okay, I know I can still make this sound without all this extra working, over efforting, right? Which, as we know, the efforting needs to come from the abs, these big muscles down here that can handle it. Yes. So just switch how you are thinking about the idea of making powerful sound, because guaranteed you know how to do it in your speaking life. If you were to yell to a person across the street, guess what would happen? You take a nice big belly breath, your abs start to engage, you open up here, right? Try it. Hey, you across the street. Hey, you, right? Do it again. Notice what's happening inside. Hey, you. Abs are working. The power is coming from underneath, baby. It's really awesome. So, highly recommend just singing the next time with an eye on how all of your body parts are feeling. Not just here, all of the body parts. So as you're trying to sing accurately, give yourself something to latch onto with your voice, with your visuals, with your kinesthetic energy. When you're breathing, give yourself something to latch onto. Okay, I'm going to send this breath into my toes. I'm going to relax my abs. I'm going to create like a balloon underneath my rib cage. This is why voice teachers have all these crazy metaphors, because we know that the brain doesn't connect to our voice in the same way it connects to our bicep. We have to think of something else in order to get the whole body online and to find that freedom, that ease that we're looking for. Because my default, and probably your default too, most singers, if you're adults, kids have an easier time of this. If you're adults, you've probably created these habits, these default patterns of how we relate to singing. And that for a lot of people that are on my page, you're also fighters like me. So we do the hardest possible thing and we over engage and we hunker down and we tighten up to like make that note happen. But a lot of times what we're looking for is the opposite of that. Because we're so worried about the sound, we forget about the feeling. So, very important. Do any of your students need use breathing trainers? Well, can you give me an example of what you're talking about? Like inhaler kind of things, maybe. Not that I know of, but I have had students with who were doing like breathing therapy, like pulmonary therapy. Oh, interesting. And we got so much out of just the belly breath idea that I was just talking about, to increase lung capacity. I mean, it can't hurt, right? If you're working on increasing your lung capacity, it's not going to probably hurt your singing, I'm guessing. I love singing as a breathing trainer in itself, honestly. Like I've heard some doctors recommend singing in order to increase your lung capacity, or swimming or something. But in my experience, it's not usually, at least for singing, it's not usually about the lung capacity, because like I said, I only use like a third of my possible lung capacity. I don't fill up my lungs when I'm singing, hardly ever. I'm going bottom to a third, bottom to a third, over and over again. And so my lung capacity doesn't really matter. It's how I use the breath that I do have. Compression is a thing, which maybe I'll do another live about. But you know how to do that if you know how to sing a long note and make it longer, right? So instead of going ha and then all your breath is done, you could make that longer and go ha. That you're already doing compression, just to save the air that is coming out and to more sustainably, efficiently use the breath that you have in your lungs. I don't know if that answers your question, Sam, but I need to look further into breathing trainers, and I will do that. Yeah, totally, Cheryl. It's better to just use your own natural voice. It's always the best. Oh, absolutely. Anybody can sing. 100%. It's all learnable. Singing is just brain training. It really is. Brain training and muscle training. And if you've ever worked out, if you've ever done like brain puzzles like Sudoku, you can absolutely do this 100%. If you're, yeah, anybody can do it. Of course. My pleasure. No problem. My problem. It's not what I meant to say. My pleasure. No problem. Yeah, let me know what more details. I'm curious. Okay, I'm gonna go eat some lunch, and I love you all very much. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I appreciate you. If you are interested in working with me and you are not already, send me a message. I'm here always. I have a couple big programs coming up. I'm doing Vocal Magic Level 2, and then Vocal Magic will be opening up again in June or July. So sorry if you've been waiting for that one for a while, but I needed a break based on all of my other lives. You can probably tell. Yes, highly recommend knowing your voice more. And if you need help with that, let me know. I'm here. I love you very much, and I'll see you very soon.